I'm also Daniel from the Ghana State Forensic Department. And this work was done in collaboration with other staff, Mr. Kotofiu and Dr. Martin and Dr. Yeda on this work. This is the outline for the presentation. I'm talking about trend of psychoactive substance abuse in Ghana. And we're saying that these substances are substances which, when taken in, actually affect the mental processes of an individual. An example is alcohol, cocaine, methamphetamine, codeine, among others. We're saying that they affect the central nervous system, and so they can change a person's perception or mood, depending on what substance you take. If you are very calm and you take a hallucinogen, you are going to hallucinate. So you see things and it could be very radical. But if you are also a talkative and you take a stimulant or a depressant, you're actually going to be very cool. So most of the people who smoke are much reserved after smoking, and those who drink tend to be WHO and UNODC actually categorizes these drugs into two categories. We have the natural drugs, the coca plant from which we get cocaine. We have the cannabis plant, that is more common in Ghana. We have the opiate from which we get heroin, codeine, among others. Then you have the fungus, psilocybin and mescaline. The psilocybin is actually a mushroom, it's a fungi. And if you're mistaken it, they are called magic mushrooms. So you have magic and actually see hallucinations and visions. We have these synthetic drugs which are actually produced for their pharmaceutical importance. The amphetamine type stimulants are the central nervous suppressants like the benzodiazepines used in the psychiatry. You have the hallucinogens like tryptamines. We have the opiates. Common tramadol of our days, pethidine, we all know. These are synthetic opioids, just like the other opiates. But because these are synthetically produced, the regulations on them are few, and usually they are not controlled or restricted. People take them for several reasons. The depressants actually calms your nerves. When you are depressed, when you are anxious, when you are agitated, they take most of these depressants. And the solvents like glue, like turpentine, and others coming in are all inhaled. Even though they are not controlled, they are called solvents. They are also depressants. You have the stimulant like cocaine, they actually give you a lot of energy. You can work for long hours without getting tired, without feeling dizzy. And so most people work on the coca plant in Southern America used to abuse these substances by chewing. And so they can work for very long hours without getting tired. You'll be tired and you'll still working. We have the hallucinogens like cannabis, lysergic acid, and ketamine. They actually give you the vision. So those people who abuse cannabis will actually cause a lot of havoc at home. They call a lot of people the witches because they see things, they hear things. It's actually true that they become very alert to sights and to other sensations. And so you see a big gutter, because they feel very high, they feel like I can easily cross this, and they fall in the gutter. You think that they just fell. No, they didn't fall. They believe they were too high and they could easily cross it. You don't really do that. The point is that when they abuse these substances, to the individual, the long-term effects are more. But I think that the short-term effects are more disastrous because it affects a large number of people. You can look at a driver feeling dizzy, or a doctor, a surgeon having tremors in the surgical room, and you're having tremors. You're actually going to kill the person. Or you can see the nurse actually having headaches or drowsiness. These short-term effects are more disastrous to society. If the driver drinks, can feel dizzy, can feel drowsy, can actually have tremors, and there can be road accidents. The problem statement, I'll summarize it. In short, researchers by the WHO, Ministry of Health, have actually stated that the substance abuse is going on in the country. And over the years, there have been a lot of reports. From Narcotics Control Board, Ms. Ernestina J. actually stipulated that about 22% of Ghanaians of school-going age abuse certain substances. And as if that's not enough, we went for a pharmaceutical conference breakfast program just last month at Kimpiski. And what we realized was that people are tending to abuse other substances aside the narcotics, the normal narcotics. And because of that, even in the forensic laboratory, we realized that most of the people who are known to be abusers of drugs, about 70% of them test negative. If you are not very careful, you say that the lab is not functioning well. But the issue is that they request for narcotic substances, thinking they are the only psychoactive substances that actually affect human behavior. but offenders tend to abuse other substances. So in this work, we decided to go on and to look at it, whether there are other substances they are abusing aside these. And so one, we're looking at the traffic substances in Ghana, narcotic substances that are trafficked, to see whether there was a relationship between the traffic substances and the abuse substances they cited. And finally, to look at the emerging trends of substances of abuse. We relied on data from the forensic laboratory, and tests were done by SWOT test, TLC, GC, GCMS for identification. These are the raw samples that are seized. I use percentages because of security reasons and confidentiality matters. I'm only using percentages. Now, cannabis took the lead. 25% of all substances in 2017 was cannabis, and 2018 was indifferent, 24.24. This is possibly because it's cultivated, most of them are cultivated inside the country. And yeah, the cocaine took the, also followed up in 2017, 20%, and in 2018, 18.18%. But the negative test, you see that in 30. In our opinion, we don't think that all these are actually negative. There might be synthetically produced drugs that are not even recognized, because manufacturing in people's laboratories can go undiscovered, and until you know it, you can't fight it. That's the issue with forensic. It's actually reactive mechanism. You only react. You cannot be proactive, because we have a lot of chemists around doing a lot of things, and the pharmaceutical industries are there. So you realize that heroin was not actually detected in both years. But we had speedball. Speedball was 25. Speedball is actually a combination of heroin and cocaine. And so we had speedball coming in. Yes, that is also quite good. Cocaine and heroin work antagonistically. So if they take the speedball, they will become very stable. You might not be able to notice. They will become stable. Yes, and so they will maintain their flow. And methamphetamine was only, the raw samples was discovered only in 2018. Thank you. Okay, but these are also analyzed from biological samples. We wanted to know whether those substances abused are also in tissues and body fluids. I'll look at the negatives and I'll explain the other things on the next slide. We had about 72% of all sampled, all tested individuals tested negative in 2017, because by then people were not requesting for tramadol, petidine, and alcohol as substance abuse. In 2018, when we started looking at those pharmaceutical drugs, the percentage of negative reduced. Possibly, if you add these up, it's going to actually amount to about 70%, which means that the negatives we always see might not be negatives, but they are negatives per what people request for. You request for narcotics, we give you narcotic results. And we have also this is a chart to actually explain the earlier information into the various drugs mostly abused. You see, apart from cannabis, which is highest, about over 60%, you only have cocaine around 10% in 2018. But let's see the trend. You have this, diazepam. Diazepam is a pharmaceutical drug. You have tramadol, a pharmaceutical drug. You have petidine, a pharmaceutical drug. It means people are actually moving away from the no narcotics, no heroin, no speedball. Methamphetamine was below 10%, below 5% actually. It means people are now moving away from the abuse of narcotic substances and shifting to pharmaceutical drugs with sedative or psychoactive effects, because they're going to get the same thing. And the reasons are quite simple. The cost of the commodity, tramadol is cheap, cocaine is very expensive. Rehabilitation, people know that if you become an addict of heroin or methamphetamine, you need rehabilitation. But they can just take petidine and go their way without any rehabilitation. Cost of the commodity also is there. And punishment. Narcotics are actually punishable by terms of imprisonment and fines. You don't take tramadol and go to prison, because it's actually prescribed. Even though the acceptable is around 50 milligrams, people can take 200 milligrams, or they can duplicate. Instead of taking one tablet, they can take two. You say, I didn't know. Ignorance is not prosecutable. Under these circumstances. Because it's an error. The doctor gave you a drug to take, instead of taking one, you took two. So, and the health implications. You see, there have been a lot of noise about narcotic substances. People know the effects of narcotic substances. But because we talk less about these pharmaceutical drugs, they tend to be moving away. And they think these are not very addictive. I believe that we should. Now, in conclusion, it's been well stated, as earlier, that there is a move from narcotics to psychoactive substances, and we should actually be enough. So I recommend that we intensify public education on the abuse and the effects of pharmaceutical drugs with psychoactive effects. And also, I believe that a collaboration between the Ghana Standards Authority, which is the highest testing laboratory for all narcotic substances in Ghana, whether in body fluids or raw samples. Because people even use test strips. Recently, we had a test, we decided to use our other test method, a test strip. Cannabis tested negative with a test strip because it only measures the metabolite in urine. And so the test strip on the test strip was negative, not cannabis. But we used the other test method and it was positive. Because it only, so if there is a laboratory that's actually doing anything with test strips, you actually fail it and give you false results. I believe that collaboration with Ghana Standard Authority, with DVLA, and other security agencies to actually investigate road accidents, because it's prohibited under the law to actually drive under intoxication. Also, we believe that prisoners can be tested and rehabilitated if found positive before they come back to society. Students caught in misconduct or such acts could also undergo testing for counseling, because these days we have a lot of poor academic performance, as we learned yesterday, and researchers in the US actually states that abuse of substance contribute to poor academic performance and agitated student behavior. Also, law enforcement agencies, we have a lot of issues with our security systems today, and I believe that new recruits, as part of their medical screening, could undergo psychoactive.